Hi everyone. So in this video we're going to get started with minor scales. So off we go. First thing to know about minor is actually both major and minor can also be referred to as modes. Mode is just kind of a term that incorporates more ideas than just a single one when it comes to scales. So especially with minor, this makes a lot of sense because there are three different versions of minor. So we have a version of minor called pure or natural minor. Both of those are kind of used interchangeably, and you'll hear me do that too. I'll just switch back and forth between pure or natural minor. And then there's another version called harmonic minor and a third version called melodic minor. So all of those are valid types of minor scales. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to just say it's a minor scale. We need a term that encompasses more things, right? More variations. So it makes more sense to call it the minor mode. They all sound minor-ish, but we have different things that are possible within that group. So the minor mode is a kind of a way of referring to that. They all sound minor, more or less, but we have all these different versions. And in this video, we're just going to talk about the first one, the pure or natural minor variant of the minor scale. And then later on, we'll talk about harmonic and melodic. So, if you know major scales, which you should before you try and tackle minor, you'll know that the thing that makes a scale sound happy or sad or major or minor, however you want to think of it, is a result of the spacing between the letters, right? So we know that a major scale is 2 wholes and a half and 3 wholes and a half. So for instance, when we look at a C major scale, we see that starting on C and ending on C, we have a whole step between C and D, and then D and E, half step between E and F, and then 3 whole steps between F, G, G, A, B, and then a half step between B and C. And that gives us that major sound. It sounds kind of warm and fulfilling and happy, right? And kind of bright. So that's the major scale. And remember, we can get a major scale built on any letter that we want by making sure that we just apply this whole step and half step pattern to it. If we want minor, all we have to do is change the whole step half step pattern. So where major has 2 whole steps and a half step to start out, minor has whole, half, whole. And in order to get that half step in a different place, we have to do things like add sharps or flats to our scales. So if I want to build a minor scale, I do the same thing I would for major, just with a different pattern of whole and half steps. And let's hear what that sounds like just to do that. So C, D still sounds major because the first 2 notes of major and minor are both C and D, right? C and D, no change, but by the 3rd note, we'll hear a difference. So here's C, D, E. And here is E flat, changing a half step there. And so then we get whole step, half step instead of 2 whole steps. And that gives us a much darker sound almost immediately, right? By that 3rd note, your ear starts to be aware that something is different. And then going on, and then there's another different note, right? That flatted note, and then another one. It's much sadder, much darker, much emptier sounding, right? So applying this new whole step, half step pattern gives us the natural or pure minor. And the nice thing is once you have the natural or pure minor scale down really well, it gets really easy to make the other 2 variants, the harmonic and melodic minor. So it's a really good idea to have a great foundation with pure minor, and then you can take that next step to get to the other variants really easily. So a couple of examples. So say we had a B scale, then we would need B to C sharp to make a whole step, and then C sharp to D gives us a half, and then a whole from D to E. E to F sharp will be a whole step. F sharp to G will be a half step in another place where we don't expect it, right, compared to major. And then G to A will be a whole step, and then A back to B will be a whole step. Let's hear that one real quick. So new start note, new tonic. And that would be the same as major so far, but by the time we hit that third note again, it should start to sound different than major. And right away we have that dark twist, right? Versus if it were major. Big difference, right? Okay, here's E, F sharp, G, A, B. So B minor scale. And we can apply this pattern over and over again. F will have 4 flats in the end. And D sharp will have a ton of sharps. We can make them this way with whole steps and half steps. But again, that's kind of the long way. And if you've been dealing with the circle of fifths and with major scales for a while, you know that it's not really necessary, once you know the circle of fifths and the order of sharps and flats, to do this whole step, half step, kind of long division way of building scales. So we are right away going to leave this whole step, half step world and do something different. And in order to do that, what we want to do in the end is add the minor keys to the circle of fifths so that we can do the same thing we do with a major scale, right? So if I want F major, I just open up my circle of fifths and I find 1 flat, and knowing the order of flats and sharps, I would just use the first flat from the order of flats to tell which note would be flatted in F. Now, the thing that's cool about this is it turns out that there's a minor scale that can very easily correspond to all these same spots on the circle. So the 1 sharp spot has a major scale that goes with it and a minor scale that goes with it. And it turns out all these spots on the inside are also related by a 5-note change, right? A, B, C, D, E is 5 letters apart. Or remember, when you go counterclockwise, it's backwards 5. So A, G, F, E, D is backwards 5. So again, it's still circle of fifths, even for minor. Now, the thing we need to know about that is, why am I able to use the same exact sharp for G major and E minor? They both use an F sharp. Well, that's kind of weird. Well, the reason that happens is referred to as relative scales. So there is always a relative, it's like a cousin or a sister or a brother, that uses the exact same set of notes between a major and a minor scale. So every major and minor scale has a major or minor cousin or sister or brother. Why does that happen? Well, let's look at this C major scale. Now, this might look confusing at first, but it's just 2 octaves of a C major scale. So all it is a C major scale twice, right? So we go from C to C, and then we go from C to C again. Now, the reason we do that is because I want to look through this pattern and see if I can find the minor scale pattern. Now, remember, the minor scale pattern is whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. And the thing that happens is that's kind of weird is that pattern shows up inside this major scale pattern. You will notice here that if I start at the 6th note of the major scale, I get the minor pattern, which is kind of strange. Like, why should I be able to play this exact same set of notes from C to C and have it sound happy, and then the exact same set of notes from A to A, and then have it feel different, have it feel like A minor? It's a very strange concept. The reason we hover around C and we start and end on C in a major scale is because your ear is using that to orient where the whole steps and half steps are, right? So it sounds major because you hear this whole step, half step pattern if I'm spending most of my time emphasizing this area between C and C. If you shift the area from A to A and you tend to focus around these A notes and go up and down in here, your ear will start to change its mind. It will start to feel and sound sad because of this other pattern that's kind of embedded in the major scale pattern. Kind of a weird concept, but very consistent. Once you get used to it, it ends up being a great asset to us. So it turns out that every major scale has a minor scale embedded in its whole and half step pattern. It also turns out that that minor scale always starts on the 6th degree of the major scale. So if I want to know what the relative minor is the embedded minor scale that lives inside C major, all I have to do is take a C major scale and go up to the sixth note of that scale. Okay, so let's look at this in a few other places. Here is a very large A major scale so that we can see if we can find our whole step, half step pattern. Okay, so here's an A major scale, and I guess I'll do the work to put in all those whole steps and half steps. This might take a moment. I'll probably fast forward the video. Okay, so let's look at this A major scale. So this is just an A major scale twice, and now I want to see if I can find the minor scale pattern hiding in here, which is whole, half, whole, half, whole. So just a different version of whole steps and half steps. And we kind of know this already. It should be at the 6th scale degree. So let's see. If we go up to the 6th scale degree, here's the 6th, and I start a pattern there, will I get whole, half, whole, half, whole? And you can ignore that last whole that got highlighted. It doesn't really count. Let's do it like this. There we go, that's a little better, right? Start and end on the same note. So it turns out that what we call the relative minor of A major is F sharp. So what we can say is A major has a relative minor of F sharp. So the F sharp minor scale happens to live inside the A major scale. They share the same set of notes. And the way I like to think of it is like any family, right? Any relative, you're going to share a lot more DNA than you do with, say, some stranger, right? An A major scale uses the set of notes that has 3 sharps in it, right? C sharp and F sharp and G sharp. And so does F sharp minor. They have the same blood. They have the same inner contents. But depending on where you start and end, you kind of get a different person, right? So A major, that family member sounds kind of happy. But if I start hanging out with their cousin, F sharp minor, it starts to sound sadder. As long as I'm hovering around the set of notes that belongs with that F sharp minor shape, that F sharp minor set of whole steps and half steps, I immediately get that sadder sound. This is actually super useful. This thing that just kind of happens is very, very useful. So for one thing, it helps us with key signatures. We don't have a whole bunch of new key signatures to learn. All we have to do is know the relatives. So if you have 4 sharps, we now know that there's actually 2 scales that use that set of notes, the set of notes that happens to have an F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp in it. So that scale is E major, but it's also a minor scale because we know that every major scale now has a relative minor that's kind of embedded in that same set of notes. And that turns out to be C sharp. And let's see why. So here's an E major scale. So there's an E major scale. We just have to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it turns out the 6th scale degree, which is where the minor scale is always embedded, is at C sharp. So I now know that E major and C sharp share the same DNA. It's like they have the same blood, and they're just slightly different, making them sort of like one family member or another, right? One personality or another. We can do that for every key signature. Every key signature we see now has 2 possibilities. If we look at some examples, I have 3 sharps here. Well, we've already done the key that has 3 sharps. That's A major, right? F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. And we already checked the 6th scale degree. It's F sharp. So we know that this is both the key signature for A major and the key signature for F sharp minor. We also know this about 4 flats. So if I have the major scale that goes with 4 flats, and hopefully we are pretty quick at that now. So the major scale that has 4 flats is A flat. So here we go. A flat. Now let's stick with quarter notes to take up less space. B flat, C, and then D flat, E flat, F, G, A flat. So here's that major sound. Right? And then I go up to 6. So scale degree 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a F natural, an F note. So that means that this key signature applies to A flat major and F minor. And then here's 5 flats. Maybe this is a good time to pause the video and see if you can figure this one out. So figure out the major scale first by whatever preferred method. Maybe that means you look at the circle of fifths. Maybe that means you go to the second to last flat. You find that scale. And then you need to go up to the 6th degree to find the relative minor. Okay, so hopefully you did that on your own first. I'm going to write in our D flat major scale, which is what this key signature is for major. So D flat, E flat, F, G flat, A flat, B flat, C, D flat. And then all I need to do is go up to 6, and it's B flat minor. And there we go. So we have not any new key signatures, but we now have double duty for all of them. They can be either a major scale key signature or a minor scale key signature, since every scale, every major scale, really incorporates the minor scale at the same time. It's relative. In order to then add all the minor scales, all the pure minor scales, to the circle of fifths, all we have to do is find the relative of each of these major keys. So we started with C major. We know first of all that C major has no sharps or flats. And then if we want to know which minor scale also coincides with that scale, that C major scale, I just go up to the 6th scale degree. So C, D, E, F, G, A, and I'm done, A. So A minor and C major are relatives. So C major has a relative minor of A minor, and they share the same set of notes. G major has a relative minor of E, and we can just do this with each of these. So once you figure it out once, you'll basically just want to use your circle of fifths from then on. So once you've done this work one time of figuring out each major scale and then finding the 6th degree, you should be set. Then you can just use this to solve creating minor scales. So let's do that a little bit. Okay, so once I've got the minor scales added to my circle of fifths, it makes it really easy to build scales. I don't have to do that new pattern of whole steps and half steps. All I have to do is the same pattern that I did with major scales when I used the circle of fifths. You do need to know, however, the order of sharps and flats. So remember, your order of sharps and flats are flats, it's bead, G, C, F. And for sharps, it's backwards, right? F, C, G, D, A, E, B. All right, so this is asking for an F sharp minor scale. First thing I'm going to do is arrow through here and put my start and end note as F sharp. Then there's just a question of finding F sharp on my circle. Here's F sharp. It has 3 sharps. Then you just need to know the order of sharps. So F, C, and G. Well, I've already got F. Now I just need a C and a G sharp. And I've now built an F sharp pure minor scale. Cool, C minor. Okay, so let's find C minor on the inside. There it is. And now 3 flats. So that's the first 3 letters of the word bead, right, from our order of flats. So B, E, and A. So let's find, there's E, and there's A, and there's B. Cool, I now have a C minor scale. E minor. Okay, E minor is 1 sharp. That's F. So I'm going to go over to F, and I'm done. Oh, I'm in bass clef. F. A flat minor. Okay, so A has none. This is the one that kind of functions like C in C major. Remember, in major, C has no sharps or flats, but if it's C sharp, it has all sharps. And if it's C flat, it has all flats. Well, A works the same way with minor. A minor has no sharps or flats. A flat has all flats, and A sharp has all sharps, so 7. So this is actually an easy one too, because I just flat everything. Cool, and submit. And next one, G sharp minor. All right, so I'm going to put my start and end notes on so I don't forget. And then G sharp, let's find it. Here it is. G sharp is 5 sharps. So F, C. So remember that's Father Charlie goes down and ends battle. And we just need the first 5. So F and then C. And we've got G. We need F, C, G, D, A. So there's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a repeat. E flat minor. So E flat and E flat. And here's my E flat. 6 flats. So that's B, G, C, leaving out the F. So everything but F. So I'm just going to go like this, and I'm done. Okay, let's apply this to some key signatures as well. All right, so minor key signatures. So no sharps or flats. Well, that must be A. Okay, 1 sharp. So that is here, and it's asking for minor, right? So E minor. So I just put the E there. The circle of fifths is so your friend, right? 6 flats. 6 flats right there. So that's E flat. E flat. 2 sharps. So D, where are we going? 2 sharps. B minor. 4 flats. That would be the minor scale of F or the major scale of A flat, but this exercise is always asking for minor. So F. Hopefully this seems really straightforward. All we need is our circle, and we're set. And let's just do one more of these where it's mixing. So there are definitely times when you'll see a key signature and you need to think of both major or minor key signatures that are possibilities. Now, 5 sharps. So 5 sharps could be B major or G sharp minor. So it's asking for major. I'm going to click B. All right, it's asking for major again, 1 sharp. So I go to 1 sharp and I go to my major side of the circle, G. Okay, minor, 4 flats. So find 4 flats. Minor side is F. And 6 sharps. D sharp minor or F sharp major. It's asking for major, F sharp. So hopefully that feels really easy. Minor should not be a big step if you're feeling solid on major scales, because there's not much new stuff yet. Now when we get to harmonic and melodic minor scales, we'll have a little bit more logic that we need to employ. But when it comes to key signatures, you're actually totally safe, and the circle, just dealing with major and pure or natural minor, because those are the only ones that actually go with key signatures and the circle of fifths. We don't have to learn harmonic minor for the circle or melodic minor for the circle, because all harmonic and melodic minor are variations on the pure. So we're pretty much good to go. I hope that helps, and I will see you in the next one.